Hey, get in here.
Hey, you!
No, get in our room.
Yeah, you, come here.
Come in.
Come on, get in our room.
Welcome to another episode of Get in Our Room. She's Kristen.
And that's Bobby.
And I am already exhausted for my day.
Your Mother's Day?
Yeah, it is Mother's Day today.
It's exhausting being a dog mom. It is. And I think we're just real moms.
Yeah, my younger sister actually texted me and what did she say? I'll read you the text message because it was very sweet, very adorable. Because nobody's ever told me Happy Mother's Day because I have no human children. And she goes, Happy Mother's Day, you're the best doggo mom. And I was like, oh, thanks. You're a great crazy cat mom.
I sent out Happy Mother's Day texts to all my siblings, or my sisters, not all of my siblings, just my sisters. My mom, my friends that have kids. And you know what? Not a single one of those motherfuckers responded with, you too.
That's hilarious.
It's like when you have real kids, you just don't appreciate the struggle of being a single dog parent.
Yeah.
So I celebrate both Mother's Day and Father's Day because I have to play both roles.
Yeah, I'm hosting Mother's Day dinner at my house today. So that is where I'm exhausted. It's going to be a lot of fun. I always have a lot of fun, but I tell you what, my energy goes fast. Last year we did a brunch, which I would have preferred to do a brunch, like do it in the morning, kind of get it out of the way, decompress for the evening and be ready for my work week, kind of thing. But we have some people that are like out of town traveling back this morning, so dinner was the option.
Yeah. Speaking of work weeks, I had such a bizarre week. So it started last week when I had to drive out to Midland, and then I had to come back on Wednesday, spend a day home on Thursday, fly out Friday to South Carolina, get home Sunday night. Then I spent 2 days just like trying to recover from that. Tuesday night, flew out to fucking Kansas City for less than 24 hours, came back, and then had Thursday and Friday. And then all of a sudden on Saturday, I was like, God, this feels like the longest weekend of my life. It felt like I had like 3 weekends in 1 week.
Yeah.
Don't tell my boss, though, because I really was working during the non-weekend weekdays. I don't know. You know what it's like when you travel for work and then you're at home and it doesn't feel like... It feels very stressful because you have to do twice as much work is what I meant.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So I think for me, what it is like 2 days being home isn't enough time to get back into a routine. And humans are ritual-based people. And like not in me for sure, not having a schedule or some type of routine is no good for me. No good for me at all.
Yeah.
Which actually is great to mention because this week, on this episode, we are doing kind of like a longer format book review we each chose a book. In my book, actually, there's a lot of themes in there about routine because the main character has autism. And that's something that a lot of autistic people need is structure, routine. It's very important to them. It gives them security. So it's very relatable for me. So, but before we jump into, our main topic for the week, do you want to talk to me about what you read this week, Kristen? Or what you didn't read this week?
Yeah. I know that the topic of what I read this week is probably going to piss you off a little bit.
Why? I'm nervous.
So I read, not like mad, but I know you're going to have a strong opinion about it because I know you. I read The Ink Master's Silence, what is that, number 6 in C.J. Archer's Glass and Steel series?
I don't know what books
6
come
or
in that.
7.
Yeah, there's so many. There's 13 books, and I don't know what one comes where. I know the first one, and that's it.
I mean, are you even a real fan if you don't know the entire series right off the top of your head, though?
Yes. I'm gonna say yes.
Because we're not gatekeeping what is and is not a real fan.
Yeah, to each their own, man. Everyone's brain works different. Like, yeah, I could not tell you what order. I'm a huge SJM fan. I could not tell you the only series. I could not tell you for the Throne of Glass series what book comes in what fucking order because there's 7 of them plus the novellas. Like, nope, couldn't tell you. ACOTAR, I can fumble through, and of course Crescent City because there's only 2 out. I've got those down, but when you get over like 5 books, my eyes start to glaze over. I'm like, I don't know which ones come where. They're all good. Just fucking read them, okay?
But yeah, I was obsessed with that one, and I finished that one. However, and this is the part that's going to piss you off, is that since I used Libby, it's a 4-week waiting period for the next one.
That's okay. It gives you time to get onto your assignment that I gave you of getting through the rest of SJM. So in January we can read the 3rd Crescent City book together.
Yes, and that's the other thing. I'm having a really hard time getting into the Assassin's Blade.
So my suggestion for the Assassin's Blade, because Assassin's Blade is the book of the 5 novellas. It gives you nothing besides these little blurps, these little stories that you don't learn about the main character really, besides the fact that she's an assassin and she's on these missions and she's kind of crazy. What you can do, and what I would suggest if you're struggling, look up A Court of Thorns and Roses. She gives a good like reading order for Throne of Glass, and you can look her up on TikTok and Instagram. She's one of the crazy theory girls. Not crazy. Crazy in a beautiful way, because like I subscribe to that crazy. Along with
Crazy
Spatulas and Speculations, A Happy Hermit. Those two, they're good friends and they're very intelligent when it comes to calling theories from SJM stuff. And they've also read all of her series multiple times over and annotated books and like made a lot of notes. So A Court of Thorns and Roses, I really liked her reading order that she suggested, because she actually says if you can't get through Assassin's Blade by itself, she tells you where to read each of the novellas between the books. So then you have more context. So look that up and try that if you're struggling. Because most people, I will say everyone that I've told to read, because I just straight up read The Assassin's Blade, and it actually made me want to read the first book, Throne of the Glass, even more, because I really wanted to find out, okay, I was like, who the hell is this chick? And give me more context about her background. It made me want to read it more. But if you're struggling, that's my suggestion.
That is a wonderful suggestion. I decided to just make a financial commitment and buy the box set off of Amazon.
Can I ask you how much you spent on
Because I knew
that?
Yeah, $60.
For all of them, plus Assassins?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I really need to. I really need
We'll
to
see
buy
what I
those.
get. I don't know if I wonder if I'm just gonna get the cover of each one.
I really need to buy. I started buying. I ordered the Crescent City, the special edition paperbacks that are coming out in September. My mother-in-law got me the hardback of A Court of Silver Flames. So I'm probably gonna buy ACOTAR in hardcover. Which it doesn't matter. I don't care. Whatever. I don't have a preference really. But yeah. As you see my stack of books in the background here,
I know, as tall as your suitcase.
I almost, yeah. I don't have a bookshelf. I don't have a place to put these things. Like, I'm getting a little out of control, and Jacob made a comment about it. And I'm like, look. You should see other people's stuff, because I'm nowhere near, like, the level that I could
It's
be.
Mother's Day. He should build you a bookshelf.
I bought myself 2 books yesterday. Don't worry about it. I'm taking care of myself.
You want to hear a really funny story?
Yes.
Speaking of books and suitcases. So, about 20 years ago? Yeah, probably about 25 years ago, my parents went on a trip with the church and they went overseas to like Israel and Egypt for 2 weeks. And so there's a bunch of people on the trip with them, and one of these little old ladies, she's just got this giant suitcase, right? She's got 2 suitcases, and one of them is huge, and she can't pick it up and wheel it around. So other people have to pick it up and carry it for her. And finally, after like a week and a half, somebody was like, "Hey, what is even in this suitcase? It is so heavy. Are we just carrying around bricks?" And she's like, "Oh no, they're all of my National Geographic magazines."
Oh my God.
That she brought on a 2-week trip to Egypt.
That is so funny. I love crazy old women
Yeah,
with my whole heart.
that was pretty funny.
So besides the
Um,
Ink Master Silence and trying to get started on, Assassin's Blade, anything else?
I read this little romance novel, and it's a series of like 4, I think. And the first one was pretty cute, and the second one was too cute. It was so romancy and so cute that I ended up skipping a lot of it. And so I don't really know if it counts as reading when you're just like next, 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 next.
Yeah, probably not, I guess.
So, yeah, it was too cutesy for me. But it's the Bellamy. I've been pronouncing it Bellamy. I don't really know how it's supposed to be said. Bellamy.
Bellamy.
I don't know.
I think
Bellamy
you're right.
Creek series.
Yeah. Bellamy.
About a little tiny town.
Is this the one
and
with
this
the
one is
pie? The
called-
first one's the pie and the
Yes!
Okay.
Yeah, it's
that
the
we
same
talked about a
series. The
couple
first
weeks
one was
ago.
Yeah. So they're cute. They're just like extra cutesy. They should be like those Christmas ones that
The
you
Hallmark
watch.
movies.
Yes.
Christmas.
That's what they're like. And it was
Gotcha.
too cute for me, so I skipped a lot of it. What'd you read this week?
So I did a lot of listening to books this week, because I was just so busy and I, had to be in motion a lot of my week this week. But the first book that I listened to is called Big Duke Energy by Emma Hart. This book was really funny, and my favorite character is a crazy old lady. She's the grandma of the Duke, and she is the fucking best. But it's just a rom-com, set kind of in today England with she's an author and she's having writer's block, and she goes and rents this little cabin, or like, I don't know if I want to call it a cabin. It's not a cabin. In this house on a lake in the Lake District, and she ends up meeting this young Duke, and the rest is he ends up becoming like her muse for the book, and they end up kind of like falling for each other type of thing. But that's like this long drawn out, they both have issues type of thing.
Is that considered breaking the fourth wall if you're writing about writing a book?
Dude,
Writing a
that's
book about
exactly
writing a
what
book?
I thought. I like my head went straight to when Deadpool is like, when he's like, oh, a fourth wall break kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's what this is. I was like, this is totally that right now. So struggling writer, yeah, it's hilarious and very good. And oh my gosh, there's animals. So like her cat's name is Sir. Oh, fuck. I can't remember the cat's name. She's got this crazy Maine Coon cat, and it's a pun.
shit.
The name is a pun. Sir Winston Purchills. And then
Cats
there's
always have pun names.
yeah. And then the grandma has goats, right? So there's Goats Art, Selena Gomez. There's there's like there's like a Ryan Reynolds. So what is it? Ryan Goat? I don't know, but they're all hilarious punny names, and it's good shit. It's a funny book, and I yeah, like I said, the grandma ends up being my favorite character in the whole thing. Um and I think my biggest problem is I think the dialogue between the female main character and the love interest is a little weak at times. So I'd probably give it like a probably like a 4 out of 5. Um and then the book that I'm talking about today, I also listened to. It's called the Kiss Quotient. So we're gonna talk about that
Can you
in
say the name again?
the Kiss Quotient. Quotient.
You just oh no, it wasn't because you said anything wrong. It's just because you like cut out partway through it.
Yeah, it's because I have too much saliva in my mouth and I don't know how to like work through that. I was gonna say swallow, but I was like not going there. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, no, you didn't say anything wrong. It just cut out in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yep, that's just me talking, having a hard time talking. Yeah, the Kiss Quotient, I think is technically how I should say it. Quotient. It's math. Has to do with math. But I want to talk about the books that I bought before we get too far away from this topic. So, I read The Love Hypothesis. I talked about that I think last week, by Allie Hazelwood. And if I have this whole theme, even with today's book, about reading about women in STEM right now, like romance rom-coms about and the main character or the females involved in STEM. Because where I'm at in my professional career, it just makes me feel good about myself. Where maybe I'm not getting that in other places. So I purchased another Allie Hazelwood book, and it's called Love on the Brain. I'm not exactly sure what this one's about, but again, it's just there's women in STEM, and I think it has to do with NASA. So, if I remember correctly, but I'm really looking forward to it because I loved the dialogue that Allie wrote for the characters in The Love Hypothesis. So I'm really looking forward to this. And also this dark-haired, he has green eyes. He has dark hair with these green eyes, and I'm like, fuck. Hi. Tell me more. I don't know if he actually has green eyes.
In the words of the infamous Theo Vaughn, makes you want to kick a fat kid in Walmart.
Yep. Thank you, Theo, for all of the greatest.
I use his quotes far too much in my professional career.
No, you gotta no. That does not exist.
Heavy quotations around professional.
Hell yeah. Can't be blue collar if you're straight up stiff. The next book I purchased, and I actually saw this on TikTok or Instagram, the author. I saw a little blurb, and it's her debut novel, and it's called Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. And she actually lives in the Tower of London, and her character in this book lives in the Tower of London. So it's fantastical. Like it's not telling her experience living there, but she's kind of giving you an alternative story about living in the Tower of London. But what actually made me buy this is the like who it's for page. What is that called?
I'd love a good note from the author. Can you read it to us?
This isn't is, I don't know if it's the note. There is an author's note. And that's just telling you that, like, about stuff, but like the acknowledgement, what, like, the like little blurb
I don't know,
about
just
who it's for. I don't remember what it's called. It's not the author's
acknowledgement totally sounds right. I have
acknowledgements.
rarely read an acknowledgement. I don't know, just read it and we'll let other people tell us what it's called.
Fair. So it says, so it's like, like for mom and dad, but this is for gingers, redheads, carrot tops, Gina's, peoples that are told they look like every ginger celebrity ever because we deserve to be the main character every once in a while, freckles and all. And so I'm like,
Oh, I fucking love it.
I know. And so I was like, I have red hair. I am not a natural redhead. I have been a redhead for 3 years though, and without fail, when I tell people that my natural hair color is blonde, they think I'm lying because
Because you're feisty as shit.
because I personify my personality is redhead. So I have redheads in my family. Like my papa, he's a redhead. And I have come to the conclusion that not making me a redhead was a missed opportunity by God or the creator or whatever you want to say. He had a missed opportunity with me when he made me blonde. So I rectified that. And now I'm a redhead. So I will always be a redhead until I go gray. Isn't it so
cute
good?
one.
Yeah. I wonder what this other one is. Let's take a peek at this really quick. Let's see what this one says. I don't understand this one. This one's an inside joke, which I also love. So to my Grams, maybe it's Grams. GREMS, to my Grems, but it's capital G. And then it says in brackets, insert dolphin boop dot gif. So that's an inside joke. That's cute though. I like that because then that person is truly for that person. So that's cute, but I don't understand it. The ginger one was cool.
I don't get it. Maybe it's Grems as in short for gremlins.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But maybe it's like but I think Allie, if I remember correct, Allie is like, yeah, she's originally from Italy. So maybe it's like an endearment to a grandparent. I don't know. I have no idea. Someone, if you're from Italy, comment, let us know. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. I don't know if I like the inside jokes. I mean, good for them, but
I don't get it.
Actually, those are my least favorite. Inside jokes and then like the to my mom and dad for always supporting me is like, you could do better.
Yeah.
It's a personal opinion though. Like you love the inside joke.
Yeah, I do. Just because I think it's like truly for that person. I wrote the acknowledgement for the book that I'm writing.
Trying to read that one. No pressure.
Yeah, I need to finish it. But I also have a working title now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Don't share it. Don't let anybody steal it.
Nope. It's all mine. Bitches. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, you know what I just learned about titles?
What?
Well, I guess it's not so much titles, but there's a book that came out called Easy Like Sunday Mornings, which is a song. You can't copyright song titles.
Ooh.
So if there's a song title out there, you could use that as a book title.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you want to see more content like this, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified every time we upload. It really helps us out. So, want to hear something kind of interesting and cool, maybe? I don't know. It's interesting. So,
I mean, I started off like with a strong yes, but now that you're nervous about it, I'm nervous about it.
I'm not nervous. I just think it's interesting. So,
you know I'm here for it.
Barbara Kingsolver and Hernan Diaz were awarded and are sharing the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. And this is the first time that the Pulitzers have awarded 2 fiction books in that category in the Pulitzer's 105-year history. So the books,
Interesting.
yeah, right? So the books that were awarded this prize is, I don't know if it's Damon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This is actually on my TBR. And then Trust by Hernan Diaz. So 2 books are sharing the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, and it's the first time in the Pulitzer's 105-year history of that ever happening. So they're both historical fictions, and one of them, the Damon Copperhead, is actually about a young man growing up in the Appalachian. So I thought of you.
I don't know how to say that word either.
Appalachian.
I was going to see how you
Appalachian?
say it.
Yeah,
If you watch Moonshiners, they call them the Appalachians.
the Appalachians. We'll go with them. Yep. We'll just.
And I want to say it as wrong as possible so that people get as riled up as possible and then type out these long comments about how I'm wrong, how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
I know how algorithms work.
So, and I thought it was interesting because if you look at the ratings, like the Damon Copperhead has 4.53 stars on Goodreads and 4.6 stars on Amazon, but the book Trust has 3.85 stars on Goodreads and 4.1 stars on Amazon. So I just kind of thought all of it
Is
was
a Pulitzer
interesting.
Prize?
Huh?
What is a Pulitzer?
Well, that's kind of where my head went, is like, what determines who wins, and why was the determination that both of these were good enough to share it?
Yeah, I have so many questions now.
Yeah, and I think the themes between the books are kind of similar. One is actually akin to a new age what is it, David Copper, or what is that book? Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. And the other one is like set in the 1920s. So it's just, I thought it was really interesting that they're both historical fiction, but I just couldn't believe that they're sharing it. And I was like, what? And I tried to find why that was determined, that they're going to share it, like what that ultimate decision came down to, but I could not find it. And all the articles I read, they're like, there was no commentary about why.
Well, I think we have our next 2 books for 1-star reviews.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. Yup, let's do it.
There's not a lot of them, so we'll get to read all of them.
Perfect. Let's do it.
That'll be so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because when they wrote the reviews, they didn't know they were Pulitzer Prize winners.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how to determine that.
The date.
Do we have to read the books before we do the 1-star review? I don't really like historical fiction. I know I told everybody I did, but that was a lie.
I know. Yeah. So, and talking about TBRs, those
Fucking overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I don't want to move those up to my TBRs because I
Yeah.
have a lot of other shit going on.
I have a laundry list of books that I was assigned to read by you.
Oops.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just overwhelmed.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed
So
too.
she's like, okay. She's like, you just have to read every single Sarah J. Maas book. You just have to read every single C.J. Archer book. Then you can get back to your own TBR. Oh, just kidding. They're all coming out with new books.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many series that I've been waiting for the next book to come out. So I have two right now just chilling in my Kindle. I have two more coming out very quickly, in fact. One coming out later this year, and I am like, and I'm in this rom-com phase, and I'm like just wanting to read these rom-coms, and I bought a bunch of books, and I'm like, cheese and rice, what am I doing to myself?
I have to stop reading rom-coms. I gotta pick a different genre. Mostly because I'm not reading rom-coms. It's smut.
We know.
I gotta read something different before I go out in public in the field that we work in.
Yeah. We're either surrounded by men that we're like questioning how they got there, or we're surrounded by handsome blue collar
boys.
And we're like, well,
Which you still question. You still question, like, how are you still alive, man?
yeah, because they're crazy. Like, they're not something I'm interested in, maybe to like occasionally look at, but I'm like, yo, are crazy. You're crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of smut and erotica, I talked my friend into reading Tangled in Tinsel by Trelina Pucci.
Yeah.
Man, I really hope I'm not mispronouncing that.
I'm not sure about the last name, but I'm pretty sure Trelina is good.
I hope so. Someday we'll learn.
Yeah.
But so I talked her into reading it, but she kept putting it off. She's like, Kristen, I'm not gonna read a Christmas book in fucking March. And I was like, come on, you're gonna love it. And she started it, and I got a text from her this morning being like, this is insane. And I was like, you're glad you didn't wait any longer, aren't you? And she's like, yeah. And then I was like, I also talked her into reading Haunting Adeline next. So the insanity has just begun.
Oops. No, that's not what I wanted to do. So
You in romance, like the dark, crazy stuff, or just fun rom-coms?
I like everything. That's my problem. Is like there's so many things, like a lot, like one of the books that's sitting in my Kindle right now is actually a dark, slow burn vampire slayer romance, and it's so freaking good. It's so good. But it's like,
Is that the Reign of
Reign
something?
Yes, yeah. And I mean, it's not like Haunting Adelaide, like that dark and like sinister. It's just
Right.
like in my brain, what I'm seeing is it's like very gothic kind of thing, like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think of Psycho Shifters series. The Aaron's book is the fifth one, and the other one, that one's coming out in July too. Shit, the second book of her story is coming out, and that's pretty dark, and like the guys in it are like fucked up kind of bully in a way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm not huge into like bully romance type things because I've had a really bad experience in real life with like someone I was with for a long time being like ended up transitioning into that, and like I don't love it because it's like I've done a lot of work to get my mindset away from shitty shit, and I don't want to necessarily always read about it, but occasionally I will. And that's like I have a friend who read the Zodiac Academy, and those are lots of books, and they're decent sized books, and there's like no editing in them, so they can kind of be interesting to read. But my understanding with those is they're a bully romance type thing. And I'm just like, I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, so going back really quick to Trelina Pucci, she has a book coming out July 3rd, and it's Not So Lucky. So
Yeah.
I want to read that one. I'm looking forward to that one. I have not read Tangled in Tinsel, but
It's going to radically change your life. It's going that speaking of author's notes that I love, that has by far the best author note I've ever read in my entire life, and I think I bring it up every single week.
I need to read it because it's a quick
It's
read,
posted
so
on our Instagram too for everybody that for the author's note, not the whole book.
yeah.
That would be stealing. But yeah, the author's note is just my favorite in the whole fucking world.
I should let me just go ahead and click on this and add it to my Kindle right now.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I'm just gonna
you're gonna fucking love
Am I
it.
not logged in?
Or
Logged in.
you're gonna have a very different opinion of me because I loved it. There's just no in between.
I've read several reverse harems. I'm pretty sure that's not an accurate statement. If anything, we're like, I knew we were friends for a reason.
This is that book that I got done reading it, and as soon as I got done, I like sent it to you, sent it to my friend, sent it to somebody else, sent like read. And that's when I sat back and was like, I wonder if guys recommend their favorite porn to their buddies.
Yeah. So
On to the
hell yeah. So there's probably a Theo Von quote for that too.
If there was a group, ooh, is it Theo Von or Joe Rogan? I bet it's the Joe Rogan cult.
Yeah. There's probably one of them together, honestly. So pivoting into the main topic for today and kind of discussing these longer form book reviews. Do you want to tell us about the book that you read?
Yeah, do you want me to do the entire book review or just am I going first?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So I read The Wicked Will Rise by Danielle Paige, and she has a fascinating series. I guess it's the Dorothy Must Die series of The Wizard of Oz. Several years later, after Dorothy visits, and then I'm not really sure. I don't know if anybody really knows if Dorothy left and came back, or if Dorothy never actually left, but Dorothy ends up becoming like the queen of Oz. And she's really corrupt, and she's mining all of the magic out of Oz so that she can have it all. And everything's really twisted and demented. So the cowardly lion who went for courage, he now feeds on people's fears. So he goes and, like a Dementor type thing, drains them of their fear. And then it makes him physically bigger and more terrifying. And so that's what he feeds on. And then he feeds on their actual bodies as well. It's very... Yeah. The Scarecrow became a mad scientist, so he's so smart that he uses his brains for evil to do really disgusting Nazi-style experiments of, like, chopping people up and seeing if you can... And so what he does is people that get in trouble with Dorothy, he then, like, adds tin pieces onto them, like pieces of bikes or machetes or, right? Like, that's what he'll replace arms and legs with, is like, now people don't have legs, they have the bicycle bottom. And he's creating a mutant army for the Tin Man to lead. And then the Tin Man with his heart leads an army, but spends most of his time pining after Dorothy. He's madly in love with Dorothy. So just a little background, like on the main characters, and then they
Whoa.
have,
This is
yeah, very
demented.
demented, very twisted. And then they have the wizard. The wizard is in it. The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, the old man wizard that again he left and then came back, and like he has the power to go back and forth between Oz and the other place, I guess. Um, but you don't really know his role in it of whether he's good or evil.
Hmm.
And the really confusing thing is that obviously in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is good and pure, but in Dorothy Must Die, she's evil and corrupt. And so the Wicked Witches have band together to try to stop Dorothy, and they're the Order of the Wicked.
Hmm.
So like wicked is good and good is wicked is kind of
Interesting.
the whole because like the good witches, Glinda, is it Glinda?
Yeah.
She is working with Dorothy, but she's evil, and they use the Munchkins as slave labor to mine magic and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's a fascinating. It's one of those ones where you look at the author and you're just like, such a small little idea that you took and completely flopped it around and made. I think there's 4 books in the series.
Oh, wow.
And so my favorite thing about this series is that like the author's playing for keeps. She introduces and kills off a lot of characters, and she gets you really attached to these characters in a really small amount of time, and then ratchets it up to 100 and kills them off. And
Ooh,
you're like,
fuck.
damn, like you are playing for keeps here. But so
So
every time you get introduced to a new character.
this is just wild because, like, if you read, like, the true fairy tales, like, that we grew up with, like the Brothers Grimm, all those fairy tales that Disney like made fantastical in a positive way, they're actually like really, really dark stories. So this is like taking that approach where it's like, oh, the perception by the massive of society who knows the story see it in this light. Well, I'm gonna twist it to the dark side and feed them a new line of information. And so she's pulling a reverse Disney, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and the stakes are high because you don't know who's going to live and die. And yeah. One of the main, and this actually happens in the first book, so it's not a spoiler for the second book. But one of the main Wicked Witches dies in the first book, fighting the lion, So the stakes are high for all characters involved. Like there's nobody in this book that you're like, they're going to figure it out. They're going to make it. Because they probably won't. So the other interesting thing is, you remember the flying monkeys from The Wizard of Oz?
Can I take a pause and tell you a fact that I just looked up because I was curious?
Yes.
But I do want to hear want the yes, flying monkeys. Okay. Originally, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz is a novel by L. Frank Baum, Baum,
Bomb.
Baum.
Bomb.
Okay. L. Frank Baum. Originally published May 17, so like in a couple 1900. So it's in a few days it's going to turn 123 years old, this story.
And I do believe Dorothy was written about his daughter, or it was supposed to be a story about his daughter or for his daughter, is why he wrote it.
Whoa. Okay, so flying monkeys.
So we're just going to follow your tangent down the line now.
Okay, sorry.
The Supernatural also does. So following up on that it's 100 years old, and it was written for his daughter or about his daughter. I can't remember if it's for or about. Supernatural, the TV show, does a quick little episode about the Wizard of Oz, and Dorothy is some kick-ass character living in Oz fighting evil, and
Huh.
she hates her dad because her dad wrote this story and wrote her into it.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
You're
So
supernatural.
it has been a very fascinating 100 years old, and the things that people have done with it have been really interesting. And yeah, and I think we talked about of whether this counts as fan fiction, the Dorothy Must Die series, using other people's characters in new storylines. Is
I
that
think
fan
it
fiction?
does. I think
Yeah.
yes, I would say.
Oh, and then also when The Wizard of Oz came out, there was some debate about, you know how everybody always makes shit political?
Mm-hmm.
And so when The Wizard of Oz came out, they made it all like this political stuff about the Yellow Brick Road was the gold standard and all this shit, and the Scarecrow's tripping over it, and yeah. Or at least that's what they made us learn about in school. I don't know if any of that's true. I think our good buddy Frank Baum just wrote it for funsies. I don't think he had a political agenda with it.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
it
else did you
says
find?
many of the characters, props, and ideas in the novel were drawn from Baum's personal life or experiences. Baum held a lot of different jobs, moved a lot, and it was exposed to many different people that helped inspire his stories from the different aspects of his life. It doesn't say. So Baum's wife Maud frequently visited their newborn niece Dorothy Louise Gage, whom she adored as the daughter she never had. So it's the
Oh,
niece.
the daughter he never
Yeah,
had.
because I think the infant became really sick and died at the age of 5 months from congestion of the brain. This is in 1898 that this happened. Frank made his protagonist, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, a girl named Dorothy, and dedicated the book to his wife. The baby was buried at Evergreen Cemetery, where her gravestone has a salute to the character Dorothy placed next to it. So it was for his
Oh,
5-month-old niece that passed away. For his wife, because she loved her niece like a daughter. Interesting.
yeah, 100 years ago.
It's fucking
Is it just the
wild.
movie? It's the book that it's 100.
The book is 100. And then there was a Broadway musical made about it in 1902.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what year the movie came out, but I know that was.
I'll look it up. Um, 19. What? The original film was 1939.
Wow.
Wow.
That was cutting edge at the time, man. That was cutting
Yeah.
edge. That was a cutting edge movie.
And then,
Like, oh, it's in color.
do you know the story about Judy Garland with that one? They got her all hopped up on drugs for it. And like,
That sounds
she
right.
became
I think
addicted
it'd be
and
weird
shit.
if there was a movie star that wasn't on drugs. I'd be more interested about a movie star that wasn't on drugs.
Yeah, just wild. And then the Tin Man, he ended up like getting cancer because they had like lead paint. That was lead paint all over him all
Of
the
course
time.
they did.
Yeah. So or something like that. This is me pulling from memories that are in a file cabinet locked away far back in my mind. So this is me pulling yeah. Interesting. Crazy. Crazy. So flying monkeys.
Oh yeah, so the flying monkeys, in the original one, they're working for the Wicked Witch of the West, right?
Yeah.
And so in this retelling of it, it's their wings that make them susceptible to magic or like unable to fight magic. So anybody that like there's a special hat that you can own and then you own the monkeys. There's a troop of monkeys that decided to cut off their wings so that they couldn't be controlled by magic anymore. So they chose freedom over the ability to fly.
Hmm.
Um, and freedom over the basically slavery of whoever holds the magic hat. And so there's one part in this book where Dorothy is fighting the lion, and she digs deep, finds a new level in herself, and like gets and defeats the lion. But afterwards, everybody's terrified of her, right? They're like, "Oh my god, like you turned black, like there was like a black mist about you and all this stuff happened." And so everybody's terrified of her, right? About like what kind of dark power did she find? Um and that scene reminds me of the Chronicles of Riddick, because at the very beginning of the movie, there is a quote that says, "In normal times, evil would be fought by good. But in times like these, it must be fought by another kind of evil." Um, and that's almost what. Oh, I didn't even say the main character's name. The main character is Amy Gum from Kansas. So she got transported to Oz. Um, and so they don't know who's transporting these little girls from Kansas to Oz, but they're having a big impact on everything. So, yeah, she gets transported to Oz, and she has a pet rat instead of a cute little dog. So, just like the little juxtapositions of. But yeah, so I thought, as she's training with the Order of the Wicked, she is becoming more and more evil herself, and she's, becoming more evil and a little bit more sadistic each character that she fights. So it's a super interesting. Again, it's a very dark book, but that as she continues on her journey, she goes into the fog of doubt, which is just a really dense fog, and it's the whispers of everybody around you and what you think they're saying about you, or in her case, like the bullies that would tease her, and then it's like a lot of what the doubt you have of what people think about you, and this fog just yells it at you.
Oh my god!
For a lot of it,
I that'd be like a unalive yourself situation for me. Because I'm a Leo and I am also a Cancer moon, and that's just my mental dialogue isn't always the healthiest. Yeah.
yeah,
I make up a
and
lot of other shit for other people that were never actually said. I'm not joking about suicide. That sounds so bad, but like that is a situation where I would be like very crippled. It's not funny. 988 is the new suicide hotline. Call. You have a friend. Someone cares about you. I care about you.
But for Amy, she finds that a lot of the stuff that it's whispering doesn't actually cut the same as it used to, because of how much she has changed and how much she's grown. That all of these taunts from her alcoholic mother, from the father that left her, from the bullies at school, from the people around her, or like the love interest that she has in this book, all of these doubts that the fog is whispering in her ear, they just don't hold the same weight, because she has found herself. She has her own purpose. She has, and so it's just one of those things where I was thinking about it and I was like, man, if you ran into a bully from high school or a previous job and they said all that same shit, like, do you think it would still affect you? Or now all of a sudden it's like,
nope.
Damn, that really just doesn't cut the same.
Nope. That's so true. I'm so glad that there's that element in the book, because like I just said, like there were so many times like where I make up my own stuff and it's like dark and not safe and in my own mind. And it's funny because like I have, like when you said that, like bullies from high school and middle school, like I have a group of girls that come to mind, and I just wish, like now that I live back in my hometown, like I just wish someday I could run into them and look at them and be like, look where you're at and look where I'm at. Look at the difference here. And oh, you wanna, like I have seen them from afar, like in the store, but I just like ignore them. But I'm like, try and say hi to me. try and say hi to me. Like, because I'm just going to look at you and I don't know if I'd light them up, but I would just be like, fuck with me. Watch my glow up.
Right? Yeah. So I thought that was I know it's supposed to show like character development within the book, but that's just one of those scenes that really hit hard of like, damn, how much you change over the years and how, like you said, what used to cripple you is now like, what?
I should send
That's
you
it?
offline. I'm going to send you the dedication that I wrote for my book.
Yes.
I'll
I'm
send
so
it to you
excited.
because it has the same theme kind of going on in it.
Yeah. But when she's in the fog of doubt, she does have the same thought of as what you just kind of had of like, there's a way to end this type of thing. But then she has a thought that says, "You know what? I've never given up even when it was the smart thing to do." And so she's just really reluctant to give up. Well, stubborn. But and then there's a lot of transitions throughout the book that I know it's magic, but they just don't always make sense. Or they're just like, did the author just not know where to go from there? Was it a planned transition where like, I don't know, because they're on like it's the lost city of something, but in order to find it, you have to get lost and then you just kind of appear there. And then to get out of it, they're with this kid and he's just kind of got to know where the door out of it is. So there's not like a whole lot of explanation behind how
Yeah.
they get off of this thing.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and obviously since it's only the second book, it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger
Hmm.
of yeah. But overall it's a great book and it's a great series and I just really love how this author Danielle Paige just took this and made it. I guess she didn't really change anything of it. She just wrote about it damn near 100 years later and twisted the basically saying like if Dorothy stayed in Oz and she had all that power and everybody was fawning over her, that absolute power corrupts absolutely and she would ruin Oz.
That's awesome. That's very good.
So,
It's going
yeah.
to be added to the TBR, but here's the thing, Miss Page, it's a long TBR. So someday I will get to it, I promise, because it does sound very interesting. So my book is,
Book.
before we, nope, I'm proud of you, Kristen,
Hi.
because you articulated your review in a way that I don't think truly gave away any spoilers and compelled
That's
me
because
to want to read it.
I didn't even tell you the main character's name until I was halfway through it.
I love it. I'm proud of you.
There, I talked so long and then I was like, I didn't even say the main character's name.
That's okay, because now I think it's more interesting to be like, oh, Dorothy's not the main character. There's this other girl, and there's all these things going on for her, and like, okay, now I want to read it. So, good job.
There you go. In order to avoid spoilers, I just won't use any character names from here on out.
All right.
Before we jump into your book, can we
Yeah,
just take a quick pause? I
absolutely.
forgot to plug my computer in.
Okay, I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll edit this out.
Perfect.
I'm way too ADHD for my own good sometimes.
Oh, did you wander off and start building a bookshelf?
No, I was like, oh, the counter needs to be wiped down. Let me do that really quick. Because I'm having guests over and I'm like, oh, we gotta fix this. Anyways.
Not a bad trait.
Okay. So the book that I listened to it this week, is called The Kiss Quotient, and it's a book by Helen Hoang, Hoang, Helen Hoang.
Mm,
And it was published June 5th, 2018. She has a lot of books. And they are a few of them, if not all of them, I'm not 100% sure, have autism as like characters with
Oh.
autism in them. So for the Kiss Quotient, the main character, Stella, has what I'm going to call probably high functioning autism. So some of the things that like present her autism, she has a texture sensory issue. So like she gets a lot of her she's a very rich, intelligent woman. And she is an econometrician. And I'll explain a little bit of what that is in a minute. But her sensory issues are like she has a lot of her clothes tailored to be made out of cotton or silk. And they have she prefers like a French seam because they don't rub on her skin and bother her. She doesn't like to be touched unless she like kind of gives you permission, or she is the person like presenting the touch first, like a handshake or a hug or even just like a, hand on the shoulder type of thing. She also is very orderly and strict with her routines. So, like, her bedtime routine is extremely important. She doesn't like to get into bed dirty, not brushing or flossing her teeth. She keeps everything in a very orderly place. Her house barely has any furniture in it. She has like no couch or TV or like anything. It's very simple and minimalistic, even though she has this really um, nice house. It the story takes place in
I feel
Silicon
like you're
Valley.
describing me.
True. Yeah, her sensory issues being on the high functioning side, I think are very relatable to people in like because right now as a 28-year-old woman, if like I have a big problem with buying clothes right now because a lot of the materials that are out are very scratchy and like
Yeah.
I will not buy them. They have like this shirt that I'm wearing is like the softest shirt and I love it because it's so soft. But if things are like scratchy and rubbing, I do not like them. I really do like my routines of like this is like I have a routine for when I'm traveling on the road for work. Like this is what you can expect during certain times of the day from me. Um she also really loves her work and she finds a lot of she's very good at it and she finds a lot of solace in like being at work. But she also has interaction problems with people because the normal like societal protocols about interacting with people are very overwhelming to her. Like eye contact is hard for her. So she talks about like how she's learned like to look at somebody and count to 3 for 3 seconds slowly and then look away because that's like too short makes you look like you're a liar, too long makes you look like a weirdo. So she like has all these things in her head when she's interacting with people that she does to like seem normal or be perceived as normal. Um,
What does
it
she do for work?
so yeah, so she's an econometrician. So what that is she is ultimately a math and data scientist where she builds algorithms based on people's spending habits to target different sales to them. So like for example, like if you were to go out and buy something from some store, they're going to look at the data that they have like attached to you and then they're going to build an algorithm that's going to send you certain emails or certain promotions based on that. So she is the person who builds that algorithm to send you targeted information for purchasing stuff.
So was she able to target herself with only clothes with the French seam? So that way she never has to guess?
No, she has like a house cleaner and she has a personal shopper and she has a tailor that she utilizes for herself. But there's this big theme about like at a certain point in men's life they stop buying their own underwear. And so she's trying
Yeah,
to
it's
like
the day they're born.
yep, not untrue. Remember, this is a rom-com, so they don't take that angle on it.
Oh yeah, that's the dark romance.
So, mommy issues. And so there's like this thing where she's like, why do men stop buying their underwear? And can I build an algorithm to like get them to buy luxury underwear at a certain time or whatever? Like going on in the background is this whole thing. What did you say? Sorry.
That's hilarious. I think that's hilarious. An algorithm to convince men to buy underwear.
Yeah. So
Hilarious.
in this book, it starts out with an interaction of her having dinner or breakfast with her parents before work one day, and her mom ends up like, and I'm pretty sure she's I don't know if if she actually says, but there's a lot of Asian themes in the book, so I think she's Asian. Stella Lane is her last name, and then the male main character that gets introduced is Swedish and Vietnamese. But he lives.
What a mixture, Swedish and Vietnamese.
Yeah, and he very strong on the Vietnamese side because his mom is the Vietnamese one and he lives with her.
Okay.
Yeah, so she like her mom is pressuring her to like get married and have kids because she's 30 and or 28. She's 28. And so Stella leaves and there's this male coworker named Philip, and he like I think she like goes into work on a Saturday and he ends up being there, and there's this really weird interaction where he's like going to the office to pick up a purchase that he made on Friday for his date that night, which is a box of condoms. And they have this whole interaction around this box of condoms. And this Philip guy is like, you should really he's like, are you a virgin? And she's like, no. And yeah, really strange work interactions going on here. And she goes, no. And he's like, well, you really should practice so you can make a guy happy someday. So she gets in this idea based on this interaction and what her mom's saying and how she has autism and she's like, doesn't like to be touched and doesn't know how to interact with people. So she hires a male escort to teach her about sex.
What?
Yep.
Just say that again real slow so I make sure I didn't misunderstand any of that.
Stella ends up hiring a male escort so she can learn about sex and how to have sex to please a man and keep a man, because the interactions that she has had, the 3 times she has had intimate relations with men, it ends up being like one and done. They're mortified after they finish and she's just laying there uncomfortable like a board because she's like doesn't like to be touched.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so
all right, you have my full attention.
Yes. So I was like, and this all of that happens within like the first 2 chapters. So by the third,
Thank God, I fucking hate a slow burn.
so you get to there's a slow burn element kind of, but in chapter 3 you're like jumping into first date with the male gigolo. So
Did you picture John Bernthal as the American Gigolo?
No, I did not, because this character is Swedish and Vietnamese, and the
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Oh, that's my bad. I thought her coworker was Swedish and Vietnamese. The male escort is.
The male escort is Swedish and Vietnamese, and his name is Michael. So she originally hires the first dinner they go out to, she he's like shocked that she's maybe she is 30. No, I thought she was 28. I'm getting a little confused because he talks about in the profile, he's like, before he goes to dinner, because it gives you little glimpses into his mind. It's not full point of view changing, like he's telling one chapter, she's telling the other chapter, but there is some elements of switching back and forth between the mindset of each character. So you see into his mind from his inner monologue. And he's like getting prepped to go out on this date, and he likes older women, like fantasies about older women or whatever, but he's like looking at her profile for her request for a date, and he's like, oh, she's under 30, and that means she's 50, and like all these things, because his normal clientele are older white women who
Yeah.
have a lot of money to spend or whatever. And so like when he goes into the dinner, he's like really confused because he hasn't seen her. She's seen a picture of him, but he hasn't seen her. He just has her name and like her age. And he's like, Stella's probably not even her real name. Little does he know, he's got Stella, who is this 28-year-old really intelligent woman. And so he like ends up going over to the table and is like, why do you want this? Like, what? What's happening right now? He's confused because he's like, she's beautiful, she's young. And so at that first dinner, she's like, I have a proposition for you for the next like 3 months or something, I want you to teach me how to get good at sex. And I will pay you to have like exclusivity to you. And he's like, well, I only do Friday nights. And in his mind, he's like, I don't do repeat clients, because he's like, I've had repeat clients before and they became stalker and like all this stuff. He has a stalker client. So he doesn't do repeat clients anymore, and he only does Friday nights. And so he's like, well, we should probably do a trial run first to make sure. And she's like, nope, that makes sense. We have to set a baseline. And this is where her smarts come out, because he's like, are you a scientist? And she goes, no, I'm an econometrician. And he's like, what? And he goes, geez, she's beautiful, she's smart, and I'm in trouble, kind of thing. And so it go so they have their first interaction, which he learns very quickly that this is gonna be difficult, like, because she like locks up. They don't even get to intercourse because she like locks up when they're like kissing, kind of thing. And she's like freaked out by French kissing because it's dirty to her and like all this stuff. And so
Wait. So he doesn't continue because she feels uncomfortable with just kissing.
yeah.
But she's not a virgin, which means other guys have just pushed right through that uncomfortability.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
He gets angry about that. He gets very angry about this. He's like, you've had sex before? And she's like, yes, people have had sex with me before. And he like
Yeah.
is like, why am I so mad about this? Like, this is fucked up. Who's hurt this woman? Like, and he's really worried she's been hurt. And she's like, no, I went along with it, but it wasn't enjoyable. And he's shocked and appalled because he stops. He's like, nope, what we're gonna do is you're gonna lay next to me in your bra and underwear, and we're gonna watch TV, and we're just going to have you be calm. He's like, because I'm not going any further without you being calm. So in the morning after that first night, yeah, because he actually stays. And in the morning after that, he's like,
Is that breaking a rule on in his book? Does he always stay the night with his clients, or
I highly doubt it, but it never comes out and says
okay.
for sure. But based on like reading between the lines, he doesn't stay the night normally.
Gotcha.
or maybe he just, you have to pay more for that. I don't know. Because if he's smart, he would be like, that's a lot of extra. So, and he seems intelligent. He actually is very smart. But so the next morning, like, she wakes up, she's in a panic because she didn't go through her night routine, and she's like really worried about how dirty her teeth are and like all this stuff. And then she realizes he like comes out of the shower and is like getting ready to leave, and he's like, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this. And then she's like, well, can you recommend a colleague that you think would be patient with me to get through this, because I'm moving forward with this. Because another thing with autism is like single-minded focus, right? They get very focused on these things that they want to achieve, and they go for them, right? And or at least this author and this character relate that back to her autism. And
Yeah.
oftentimes people who are autistic do become obsessed with things. So, and she has that mentality. She's really obsessed with her work. She's really obsessed with her piano playing, like all this stuff, right? And so he's like, I don't do repeat clients. And she's like, so you knew last night going into this that you were going to tell me no? And she's like fucking pissed about that, right? Like, because he wasn't clear and upfront. And he's like, look, I'm sorry, I have an appointment. I have to go. And anyway, so he ends up leaving, and she shuts the door, and she just is like sitting there and is like, God damn it, now I have to do from scratch. And she's like going back to square one and reading through all those profiles again and trying to figure out who would be good. And she's like, I chose him because he had kind eyes, and I really thought like he would, and he had 5-star review, and I thought it would be good. Now I have to start over, and he can't even recommend somebody to me to help me not be at square one. And then she gets a knock on the door, and she opens it back up, and it's him. And he's like, she's like, she could tell that like he had walked away, but he ran back, and he goes, 3 weeks. I will give you 3 weeks. Because he's worried. He doesn't want somebody to do what has happened to her before, where they just keep going through the, like, the uncomfortable, her being uncomfortable. And he's like, I'll give you 3 weeks. That's it. And she goes, okay. So then the next time they meet, she has a fucking lesson plan, starting with like hand jobs. And he's like, there's no kissing involved in this. And he goes, well, we mastered kissing last time, so I wanted to move on to the next thing. And so, and like all this, and then there's like a performance review, and she's like worried she offended him. And so she goes back in front of the performance review and is like, Stella's performance review. She's like, I don't think this is, no, you're teaching me. I need the review. And so she goes through the list and like puts her name, and there's these just really genuine, cute interactions between the two characters. And because she's like, no, like she doesn't want to offend him, and he is trying to figure her out because he doesn't know she has autism. And that's a growing theme, is that he doesn't know she has autism. And so there's just these crazy, so after like number 2, because she locks up again at like week number 2, and so then she gets invited over for dinner at his parents' or his mom's house, and she wants to transition away from the sex part to the relationship part, because in her interactions with him and going on this date, that one of her sensory issues is sound, like things being too overwhelming, too many sounds. And he's like, hey, for week 2, let's go on a date, because he's trying to teach her like foreplay and how it should be between a man and a woman, like leading up to the sex, because he figures out that she doesn't get that part even, or that she's been around these really shitty men who don't give her any like room to be a human. And so they go on a date to this club, which is not great for her at all. And his cousin, Quan, his cousin comes and joins them, and she meets Quan, and they're sitting there, but then old stalker client is sitting at the bar, so he goes over to talk to her. And Stella's becoming really overwhelmed because this super popular DJ is playing. There's a bunch of people. It's really loud. She's seeing him like be touched by this other woman, and then she sees them kissing. She starts to have a panic attack. She flees. Quan helps her flee from the bar out the back door because she was like trying to push through the crowd and she was like getting overwhelmed. So he goes, grabs her hand, leads her outside. She's having a straight up panic attack. And Kwan's brother is autistic. And so Kai, he's talking to her outside and he goes, and she's like telling him it's just too loud. There's too much going on, all these things. And she's like hyperventilating. He's like, okay, breathe. He's helping her through this panic. And he goes, my brother used to have this happen to him a lot. He goes, he's autistic. And she looks at him and he goes, you're autistic. And she doesn't like confirm or deny. And he goes, Michael doesn't know. The male prostitute, Michael, his cousin. And Quan doesn't know Michael's a prostitute, by the way. So he thinks this is his girlfriend. So there's like a fake dating element going on, right? And she goes, so Quan ends up keeping her secret for her, that she has autism. Michael ends up later figuring it out because he's really into martial arts and like sword fighting, and him and Quan and Kai all are part of the same group. And he goes there one day and he's looking at Kai going, wow, him and Stella are so similar, and it all clicks together for him. And then Michael doesn't tell her he knows. So they end up in this, like, she ends up propositioning him to date her for like 3 months for $50,000 a month because she's fucking rich. And so he ends up saying yes because he's actually a tailor and he's actually a fashion designer. He went to school for fashion design. He went to New York City but called home because his dad is an asshole, left his mom, who ended up getting stage 4 cancer, and he had to come home and help his mom, who owns this dry cleaning and seamstress business. So he ends up working there as a tailor and like taking care of his sister. And his mom doesn't know that she doesn't have health insurance and that all of her cancer treatment is being paid by her son. So he's a prostitute to pay for his mom's health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they end up like the fake dating to love thing, right? And she ends up finding out, but they're both like in their own little world of, she finds out that he knows about her autism and she thinks she's not good enough, and that's why he ends up breaking things up. He broke things off because he's scared to be like his father. And like all of this stuff happens, and they're both like kind of in their own little stubborn world about why they can't be together and all of this stuff. And I think it's funny because Michael is like one of 6 kids or something, and he has 5 sisters. And yeah, so it's pretty crazy how his family plays a role in like making him realize he's not like his father. Stella does a really, really sweet gesture for him and his family because she has a $50 million trust fund. She makes really good money at her day job. So she ends up doing this really grand gesture. He ends up doing this really grand gesture. He ends up, getting into a little territorial situation with this Philip guy. And how it plays out is really beautiful. But I think my favorite thing about how this book is written is how Michael gives her all of the power. Every step of the way, it's up to her. He knows that's what she needs, and he just grants her all of the power in the relationship and goes along with it. Like, you don't want to be touched right now? I'm not going to touch you. You don't want to do this right now? We're not going to do that right now. Like, all of the decisions end up ultimately being in her control. And that works for her because that's where she's comfortable at, right? Is like,
yeah.
And so I find the level of consent and the discussion around though exactly what you said, because I think there's been a time in most women's lives where they've felt obligated or coerced into some type of sexual interaction based on circumstances. And I think this book does a wonderful job of highlighting that in the beginning and then explaining why that is unacceptable. And I think it's nice that the unacceptable level comes from the male perspective, where the woman genuinely doesn't understand why that's a problem, but the male is trying to educate her about this is why this is a problem. And I think
that's a fun little twist there.
Yeah. I find it very just genuine and extremely important. Kind of like how we have spoken before about it is everyone can learn by reading most of these like romance books, maybe not the dark ones, Kristen, but like a lot of the rom-coms
you can learn a lot from dark romance.
You can, but I think explicitly about consent and
like
stuff.
Lock your fucking doors.
Yeah, please. But says a girl who grew up in the country where we didn't lock our doors. We do now, but like our doors.
Why'd you guys start locking your doors?
We had a break-in.
Well, if they weren't locked, it wasn't really a break. It was just like a walk-in.
That door was typically locked.
Oh.
Because it wasn't one we used.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Pivoting to this crazy story of my childhood. I'm trying to remember how old I was. I was probably between the ages of like 12, 13 years old, maybe. And my home was built into the side of a hill, so our basement was a walkout basement, and then we had the first level, but there were stairs. So like my bedroom wall was here, the stairs were here, and there was a door on top of the hill out of the house here. And so they ended up kicking in that door, so it was literally right on the other side of my room. And yeah, and we had a German Shepherd at the time. His name was Titan, and he lost his mind and chased after the guy. So my mom's room was downstairs in the basement, so she comes up and she's like standing out of the door calling for Titan to come back. And like our dog, we don't know if he got him. We have no idea who the person was, where they went, whatever. But our dog is the sole reason that person did not get into the house. And Titan ended up coming back, but he was forever changed after that. He ended up becoming a little aggressive and territorial of the house. So like you could no longer just walk into the house. You had to walk in and make sure you greeted him by name. Otherwise, he was chasing after you. So it really fucked up our dog. It fucked us all up, but really fucked up our dog to the point where he unfortunately became aggressive because he took his taking care of the family and protecting. Because growing up, it was mostly just because my dad was working and traveling for work. It was mostly just my mom, my older sister, and I for a long time. And so he was the man of the house and he took his job very seriously. But I just, going back to the books and everything, I think just the level of something that's really attractive to me in books right now is consent. And in hearing from, I know it's written by mostly females, but like hearing from a male perspective about wanting to be consensual and do the right thing and stuff like that is just extremely attractive.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And super underrated in the world. So like I got into an argument with a guy at a coffee shop one time, and he was like trying to mentor this young man about women, and it was the most disgusting conversation that I've ever overheard. I think I ended up calling you and telling you about it. Yeah. And I really just wanted to look at the young man and be like, if you want to learn about women, you need to ask a woman in your life what her thoughts are, and you need to read romance novels written by females. And then you're going to have no women problem. If you learn how to be a man like that, you will have no problem where women are concerned, and you will find the right woman.
Yeah, I agree.
But
More men should read romance novels written by women.
yes.
You know.
But that's a Kiss Quotient, and I tried really hard not to give away any super big spoilers. A lot of the themes I did kind of throw out there, but I think the important thing is the dialogue and the actions that are taken from the male point of view to help support this woman grow as an individual.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's good shit. Great shit.
Cool, man. Another great episode.
Yeah.
Another fun episode.
What are we doing next week? She's like, good question.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh, it's set to be a fanfic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But we're discussing how we'll see. Maybe it'll be a surprise. Might be fan fiction, might be something else.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a surprise to me.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Get in Our Room. We look forward to seeing you next week. We'll give you a heads up on the social media about what we decide we're going to do for next week, because we were playing around with a couple ideas in the background too, so I'm not sure if it's going to be fan fiction, but we really appreciate you being here and following along on these discussions. So we will see you next week.